And starting a business, I think it's important to find something that you have a passion for, because you're going to need the passion.
Yeah.
And then realizing that failures and mistakes along the way is part of the process.
Positively West Virginia is powered by Breezeline high-speed fiber internet and sponsored by Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Key of Morgantown, Interaction Media, and Storymaker. With the help of these sponsors, we are able to share the positive business stories of West Virginians, including the one featured in today's episode.
Well, folks, we're visiting today with Joe Sams. He's the founder and president of Biztec, located in Washington, West Virginia, just between Parkersburg and Ravenswood.
Yep.
Joe, thanks for being on the show today.
Oh, you bet. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's great to have you here in the studio. I look forward to learning more about your business, Biztec. So tell us, Joe, if you would, a little bit about your company.
Yeah, Biztec, we're an IT services company. We always joke we work on pretty much anything with buttons.
Yeah.
Obviously, we specialize in certain areas. Managed services is a big part of our business, where we go in and we provide day-to-day support for companies with their technology, provide help desk support, boots on the ground coming in, helping people training. And we also have a big section of our business that is physical security. So we do like cameras, access control, alarms.
Oh, wow.
Vape sensors, which is really, a pretty big problem in K-12, in the
Yeah.
K-12 arena right now.
Yeah.
So we sell a lot of those vape sensors for bathrooms.
Really?
Yep, and they all integrate together. They're all cloud-based, and they use analytics, advanced AI analytics, so detection of individuals, different activities you might be looking for, counting the number of unique individuals, groups of people, things like that.
Yeah. So in 2008, you started Biztec right there in Washington, West Virginia.
That's correct.
How did you get, or what inspired you, I guess, to get into the tech business?
Well, it was honestly, I'd been in IT for a long time. And I was actually, a lot of people who hear they go into business because they don't like working for other people.
Sure, yeah.
Or they're not necessarily good at being an employee and they want to run. But I had a long running success as an employee working for some good companies. I worked for HCA Healthcare, big healthcare organization. Yeah. I worked for Pro Systems, Ross Perot's company after he sold EDS.
Yeah.
And I had great success at that. But we were looking to move back here. I had to go elsewhere to work, and my family's here in West Virginia, so we wanted to come back.
Yeah.
I came back and worked for the Department of Treasury has a Bureau of Public Debt, but now it's Fiscal Services in Parkersburg.
That's right, yeah. That's a pretty substantial employer down there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's our biggest employer in the area
right.
now.
Okay.
And well, it was a great job, and it paid pretty good. It wasn't paying what I was accustomed to. So I started doing some consulting on the side, because while I was with HCA Healthcare, one of the hospitals was St. Joseph's Hospital in Parkersburg. So I had a lot of connections there. And so I consulted for an ambulance service and a couple medical offices. And it just started to, word of mouth just started to expand.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I had to make a choice.
So you really started Biztec as a side hustle.
Yeah.
And now it's grown into a pretty substantial company.
Yeah.
How many employees do you have now?
We almost have 40.
Oh, wow. That's
we've
great.
got some vacancies, but yeah. It's done well. Despite myself sometimes, it's done well.
Yeah. So you mentioned managed services. You mentioned some of the security, outside security, and working with cameras and things of that nature. What are you best known for?
Right now, I would say that we're best known for our security services.
Yeah.
It's makes about 80% of our total revenue, and we have a national footprint when it comes to our security services, where our managed services is more regional.
Yeah, that's fantastic. If you were able to give your 30-second pitch, in other words, when you meet somebody for the first time, what do you tell them that you do at Biztec?
I tell them that we take IT off their plate, that they can focus on making widgets or whatever it is that they do, focus on their core business, and we take that and turn it from and sometimes a weakness for them into something that is a tool for them to achieve their goals.
Yeah. Joe, like when you go in and work with a company or maybe even a nonprofit or a school or something like that, do these folks typically have, information technology, IT people on their team, or are you acting as that?
Well, that's a great question. Both. Primarily, our original target market for managed services was a place that was big enough to have a substantial IT need, but weren't quite large enough to have their own internal IT department.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like multiple people. Like they may have one, but the challenge with that, you can think of a multitude of challenges with that, but one is turnover. And two is, typically they don't document because they don't have to share information across the department. Yeah. So when they leave, a lot of times these companies are left in a lurch.
Yeah, they've got the passwords and the electronic keys to everything. Oh my
absolutely.
gosh. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like the specific geography. You said some national footprint, regional footprint, but where's your core, like geographic area?
Mid-Atlantic is our core. I mean,
Amazing.
we do a ton of work in like Northern Virginia, DC sprawl, that area, Baltimore.
Amazing. Yeah.
All that. And then if you take kind of like a half moon across the top, we go through like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. That's where I would say a majority, the most concentration of work. Yeah. But what's happened is we'll go over there and do work, and then there'll be multiple site companies. They'll be a national or regional company. So that drags us to other areas. As of last month, we've done work in every state except for Hawaii, Alaska, South Dakota, and I think Mississippi.
Wow.
So
amazing.
we've been everywhere, man.
That's great. I got to ask you, dealing with technology, and we're all basically tied and tethered to technology constantly, it seems these days, right? What's the wildest thing you've seen since you've been in business in tech?
Oh man, the wildest thing. Man, that is a pretty broad question. We've seen a lot of stuff you want to unsee. Because you get into people's browser history and things like that. You can see a lot of things. But I think the wildest and the coolest thing that we've seen is just recently how general AI is like we're on the precipice of that.
Yeah.
Where you see things like Chat GPT and OpenAI becoming very much integrated into business, and then you see the little branches coming off of it. I think we're probably, and I think most people in the tech world would agree, we're within 10 years of seeing some pretty impressive advances in that area.
I agree with you. I often think of, I've gotten to see certain pieces of technology that have come along in my short career, really, like the cell phone. That I was like one of the early adopters of cell phone technology, the old bag phone, and then the internet came along.
Right.
And it replaced like the fax machine, and we had emails and all these new technologies. And I keep saying that like AI is going to be so much more of a quantum leap than the internet was ever. We thought the internet changed things. I mean, AI is changing everything, and it's happening now. It's not coming. It's here. It's expanding. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, I've almost said those exact same words about it being a real game changer. Yeah. I mean, but I think honestly that the internet and the cell phone are going to pale in comparison to this innovation. I spoke at the Medical Group Managers Association for Healthcare in West Virginia on AI and healthcare and the impact. And that was I told the group of people that I was speaking to that it is going to revolutionize that because of its ability just to parse data.
Yeah.
Not that I think that what you'll see initially is an augmentation of human intelligence. It won't be like the AI comes in and just makes diagnoses and things like that. You'll see a doctor use it to help narrow the field by drawing. I mean, right now they got to go and they got to look through all these journals and find precedents and things like that, and AI can do it in a snap.
Incredible. Yeah. This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back.
Your prescriptions are designed to keep you healthy, active, full of life. At Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're making vital medicine more affordable. Because when your prescriptions don't cost an arm and a leg, you can use those limbs for something more meaningful. Because life. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, West Virginia.
It's in the precision, the attention to detail, and the confidence that create a timeless look. Like Diamond Cuts Barbershop, Freedom Kia of Morgantown is not only committed to timeless design, but also fair pricing, excellent sales, and service with no hidden fees. Right now, current Kia owners save $2,750 on any in-stock 2024 Kia Sorento. Wherever it is you're going, arrive with confidence and arrive in style. Visit Freedom Kia today, right off exit 153 on I-79 in Morgantown.
And we're back. Our guest today is Joe Sams. He's the founder and president of Biztec, located in Washington, West Virginia, right outside of Parkersburg, between Parkersburg and Ravenswood. Joe, you've got a great company. You've been at it for 16 years or so now. Things are changing rapidly. How about getting new customers? How do you go about doing that today?
Well, that is honestly something that has been in constant evolution.
Yeah.
We started out honestly word of mouth. It grew, as I spoke earlier, it kind of grew on its own.
That's
it became a bit of a monster.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. I mean that the people that I'm working with are delivering at a high level, and that's being shared. I mean, if you help somebody, they're going to tell the people that they know.
That's right.
So I mean, honestly, probably for the first 12 years, it was almost exclusively organic growth like that. In the last few years, we have tried to develop an outside sales organization and marketing, a marketing department to really get out there and grow things with a little bit more of a concerted effort. And we actually have hired and we've had to make some changes to try to get the right person in that role. But we now are doing outbound sales. We're doing we have sales development reps that use social media like LinkedIn primarily, and some other tech tools to kind of isolate and target specific
that's how we
groups.
Connected, LinkedIn.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. In terms of growing the business right now, like what do you see as the biggest challenge you're facing?
I think the biggest challenge that we're facing is sales has changed so much over the years.
Yeah.
We're pounding pavement and getting out and getting in offices, shaking hands. That used to be the way.
Right.
Well, not so much my generation, Gen X, but as these younger people are coming in, it's not as effective. You're better off going through social media or email, and then if they're interested, then there's a face-to-face. So we've tried to model that and adapt to that environment.
That's great. And like you said, the referral side, the word of mouth, I call it referral marketing is very important as well. I always say that, word of mouth has to start somewhere, right? And what's cool about that is like the things that you're talking about, like social media, like LinkedIn, that's word of mouth. It's just amplified, 10x, 50x, 100x, right? Because everybody has a media channel today, which is pretty cool. I used to say that the mass media controlled everything. Now the masses are the media.
Yeah.
If you think about that.
Yep.
So what would you say in terms of your business long term? What's the vision? Like, what do you see? How do you see Biztec evolving over the years? Say the next 16 years or so.
Yeah. So we've been highly driven by our partners. We're selling a specific technology. What we're looking to do is expand that, where we become more agnostic in what we offer. And then we want to engage people as a trusted partner and then match them with the right technology, rather than coming in with a specific solution and then trying to find the people that fits.
Yeah. What's the ideal customer look like for you then?
I think it's still the ones that want to compete on the same level with corporate America, the ones that don't quite have the resources to have the latest cutting edge tech on their own.
Is there like an employee number or revenue number that kind of is that sweet spot for you? Or?
Well, it is sometimes more simple to have a larger company, say 100 endpoints or more.
Yeah.
But we are built in such a fashion that we can take on the individuals. The challenge is really more on our side with the smaller ones because that's more people you got to keep happy per endpoint. Yeah. And more relationships you have to manage.
Like with regard to the managed service aspect, are you taking people like from like they're having their own server in their building to cloud-based computing? Is that kind of the thing that you're seeing the most of, or tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a matter of fact, we've been doing that almost since our inception because of the fact we were trying to find a way to get enterprise solutions to small businesses. And there's no easier way than leveraging a cloud data center, providing that environment, that uptime. You can't achieve that without a major spend and putting in a server room or a data center of your own.
Well, you grew up here in West Virginia. How did you get into the tech business? I'm kind of curious about that. Walk us through kind of like your walk, I guess, through from getting out of high school, and what did your path look like?
Well, it all started when
back in 19.
My parents honestly got me interested in tech. I was always a little bit of a fiddler where I would take things apart, put them together. A lot of times to my parents' dismay, but they bought me a computer, and we didn't, we weren't poor, but we didn't have a lot. So them buying me a computer at the time, a regular desktop was almost $2,000, and it was a lot of money back in the late or early 90s, late 80s. And they got me I remember it was an Epson Equity One 8088 processor with like a 8 megabyte hard drive. So, and I was fascinated by it. I was using some of those early tools like First Choice and Lotus 123.
Sure,
and that's what I cut my teeth on. And I would write batch files and try to automate the way the computer booted up. And so then I just got a knack for it. Well,
that's so cool.
Back when, and I'd mentioned St. Joseph's Hospital, I went to work for them. My aunt worked in data processing there. And a position came up in IT, and she told me about it, put in a good word for me. I went in there, and they were in that time where they were going from an IBM mainframe to PC and server infrastructure. And there were a lot of people there that had been mainframe. They didn't know. So someone coming in youthful that knew that world, I was able to make a big impact. As a matter of fact, the only person in the entire hospital that had what we would call a PC, people had terminals, but they didn't have PCs, was the controller.
Amazing. Amazing. I remember the very first time that I was on the internet. It used to be, you had the modem where the landline would plug into the old modem. You remember those?
Yeah, you put the handset on it.
Put the handset in there, and we would call a number, and they used to have, I can't remember what they were called. They're kind of like a listserv, but you would get in and have like
bulletin board.
Yeah, bulletin board, and chat with people from around the country. We were had a group of friends who were all musicians, and we would talk with other musicians around the country. We thought that was the coolest thing.
It was like a completely different world, and that's what I got sucked into. That and
so you were at the cutting edge.
Yeah.
That's
you
awesome.
Remember CompuServe and Prodigy? Those things were kind of predecessors, your gateway into the internet. It was a really cool time to be alive.
Yeah. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 48.
Yeah. So you came in at the right time. Really, you've seen so much, quantum change. Really,
absolutely.
in technology.
Literally, quantum change.
Can't even imagine. Like, all the things you've gotten a chance to see. This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back.
My name's Caitlin Furby. I'm an interior designer with Remarkable Interiors. Our time is very limited. We're trying to do everything we can possible to keep our clients' projects moving and rolling. So StoryMaker has been really great for us for putting out how to explain our company. I can sit and agonize about a post. And is this right? Does this sound good? When I use StoryMaker, it sounds so beautiful, and it was so easy, and it saves me a lot of time to do the things that I'm really good at.
Stay connected with an unbeatable deal from Breezeline. Get reliable, fiber-powered 500 megabits internet for $39.99 per month with a $100 gift card and price lock guarantee, plus a free modem, free installation, and free Wi-Fi your way. Folks, here at Interaction Media, we're a media company, and we rely on high-speed internet every single day to get our jobs done. That's why we use Breezeline. It's affordable, it's fast, and they're awesome people as well. Learn more at breezeline.com. We're visiting once again with Joe Sams. Joe is the founder and president of Biztec, located just outside of Parkersburg in Washington, West Virginia. Jump right back into it. Joe, this has been a great conversation. I just love hearing, and I'm just like envisioning all the things you've seen in terms of change in the tech world. You know, obviously you're running a company of right around 40 people. You've been in business for roughly 16 years. What would you say is the most important attribute of a successful business leader today?
So that's evolved for me over time.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
When I first started out, I was very much a manager of people. Like I dictated very, very much the way things were going to happen. And I've learned over time that I position the company much better for success if I facilitate, remove obstacles, and empower them. Otherwise, what I ran into is the company was never going to be more than what my strengths and weaknesses were. It was going to be a reflection of me, just exponentially capable in hands and feet.
Absolutely.
But once I started, it started with a shift in who I hired. I hired people that were capable of making disciplined decisions. But then, and you probably heard this, you probably know Good to Great was a major impression on me.
Absolutely.
But
James Collins.
Yep. So, I wanted those kinds of people that would make decisions based on good information. And then I just pointed the direction and gave them Z, and then they worked ABC out to get there.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. I actually heard an analogy of that recently, and say, it's A, B, Z. It's A is the starting point, B is the next step, and then Z is the final area we want to get to. That's the goal.
It gives them trajectory.
And then you figure the rest out, right?
Yeah.
A, B, Z. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. I get that.
The other thing is, what you were describing is what John Maxwell calls the law of the lid. You become the lid for your own business, your own organization. And once you're able to identify that, as you did, and kind of remove the lid, then the business can flourish and grow, and there's no limits then.
Yep. And it plays out that way.
Yeah.
It really does.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Thinking about of somebody, I love your story, first of all, because you're a success. Okay. You've got a reputable company. You're leading great people. You're providing valuable service out here in the community, not just in West Virginia, but across the mid-Atlantic states. But I think it's super cool that you grew up in West Virginia. And now you've got a West Virginia-based business. And I love that. And I encourage people every day to do that, right? So what would you say, like in terms of advice for somebody who might be listening to this? Maybe it's a kid getting ready to graduate high school, or maybe even graduate college, about starting a business. What would some advice be that you maybe share some lessons learned?
In starting a business, I think it's important to find something that you have a passion for, because you're going to need the passion.
Yeah.
And then realizing that failures and mistakes along the way is part of the process, and don't let them. I think that in talking to other business owners that have had failed ventures and stuff, it seems like that the obstacles, when they punch them in the face, they don't bounce back. They use that as an opportunity to say, well, this is not
maybe
what
I shouldn't have done this. Yeah.
So there's a level of stupidity that needs to take place where you're willing to get punched in the face over and over again.
Yeah.
So I think that more than anything, hard work and perseverance. It really, I'm not an exceptionally intelligent individual. I'm a college graduate. I have a master's degree, but I'm not special in that way. I just work hard and I work through my mistakes.
Where'd you go to college?
I'm a graduate of Ohio Valley College. It was college then. It's since went out of business. It was in Vienna, West Virginia. The Fighting Scots, go Fighting Scots.
Awesome.
And then WVU, a master's degree in business administration from
MBA.
WVU.
All right, man. Well, you are a smart guy for sure, and you can't not be smart and run a business like you are with 40 employees for the past 16 years. So that's great, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think, when you talk about passion, and the ability to bounce back from a mistake, and and sometimes it's multiple mistakes, but you've got to, we always hear you got to learn from your mistakes. But I think that the key in what you said there too is not just the tenacity to bounce back up, but the idea of failing fast. You hear that, right? And what that means is, you go out there and make the mistakes early. Don't be afraid to take risks, because you're going to goof up. There's stuff's not going to go other way you thought it was going to go. It always takes twice as long and costs twice as much.
And there's things out of your control.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's great advice and wisdom. And, what would you say, from your perspective, like owning a business, growing up here in West Virginia, hearing some of the negative stereotypes that you hear, right, about being at the bottom of the good list and the top of all the bad lists, it seems. What would you say, is something you appreciate about doing business here in West Virginia?
I think that we have special people here, from a work ethic standpoint, from a character standpoint. I think that all we need typically is a shot, someone to give us a chance. I think that's why, and I can speak to this because I worked in fiscal service. I think that the team that's here in West Virginia is a much more productive team than what they have in DC. And it's all about the type of people that we have in West Virginia.
That's great.
I think that we get limited a lot with opportunity because of our geography. Yeah. You're not going to go and have a sprawling manufacturing plant anywhere except along the rivers in West Virginia.
Because of topography, the mountains, basically.
Yep.
Flat land.
Yep. You can't find the flat land.
That's great.
I think that a business like ours that does not require a lot of space. As a matter of fact, 80% of our workforce, maybe even more than that, work telework. Yeah. We don't need a large amount of space, and we're able to bring dollars from outside of West Virginia into West Virginia.
I love it.
Which
Technology,
that was in my heart too. I'm like, I don't want to circulate the same dollars.
Yeah.
Let's go take from Maryland and Virginia and bring into our state.
That's great.
And we're not limited by those same topology issues.
Yeah, that's great. Joe, as we close out our time here, how can listeners learn more about Biztec and maybe even get in contact with you?
Well, you can go to our website, www.biztec.us, and Biztec is BIZTEC. We get a lot of that where people put the H on it, but it's biztec.us. We have a list of our services and how to contact us there.
And we'll make sure we put links to all that in all the notes sections.
I appreciate that.
Tag you on social media when we send this out too. Joe, I just think that what you're doing is fantastic. Joe Sams with Biztec. He's the founder and president. I honestly, I love tech. And I think what you guys are doing here in West Virginia to bringing technology as to the forefront of our industry is fantastic. And I think I just want to encourage you. Keep up the great work, man. You're doing great stuff here in West Virginia.
We'd like to thank our partners, Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Key of Morgantown, Interaction Media, Storymaker, and our studio sponsor, Breezeline, for helping to share these positive stories. If you'd like to become a sponsor of the Positively West Virginia podcast, visit positively.wv.com/sponsor.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of Positively West Virginia. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on the show, drop us a line on our website at positively.wv.com. And of course, we appreciate your comments, your notes, and your words of encouragement as well. On behalf of our entire Positively West Virginia team, including our producer today, Mr. Hampton Hill behind the controls, also from Parkersburg, West Virginia, I'm Jim Matuga, your host. Stay positive, West Virginia.